The sun hung low over the cracked asphalt of Juniper Street, painting the old auto shop in hues of gold and rust. The air smelled of motor oil and burnt rubber, a familiar perfume to 10-year-old Kyla, who stood in the shop's open garage, her small hands smudged with grease. Her overalls, 2 sizes too big, hung loosely on her frame, but her eyes, sharp, curious, alive, scanned the cherry-red 1965 Ford Mustang parked before her. The car was a beauty, or it would have been if its engine didn't cough like a chain smoker every time it tried to purr. Kyla wiped her brow, leaving a streak of black across her forehead, and muttered to herself, "Fuel pump's shot. Maybe the carburetor's clogged too." She wasn't talking to anyone in particular, just the way she worked, piecing puzzles together out loud. Her dad, Marcus, used to say she could talk a car into running if she tried hard enough. That was before he left, before the shop became hers to haunt, before the bills piled up on the counter like a deck of losing cards. The bell above the shop door jingled, and Kyla's head snapped up. A man stepped inside, his polished loafers clicking against the grimy floor. He was tall, maybe 50, with salt and pepper hair and a suit that screamed money. Crisp, tailored, the kind of thing you don't wear near engine grease. His eyes, though, were tired, like they'd seen too many boardrooms and not enough sunsets. In his hand was a leather briefcase, and on his wrist, a watch that probably cost more than Kyla's whole life. "You the mechanic?" he asked, his voice smooth but edged with impatience. Kyla raised an eyebrow, planting her hands on her hips. "You see anyone else here?" The man, Elliot Grayson, though Kyla didn't know his name yet, blinked, clearly not expecting a kid. "This your shop?" "Was my dad's," she said, her tone flat but firm. "He's gone. I fix what rolls in. That your Mustang out there?" Elliot nodded, glancing at the car. "It's been sitting in my garage for years. Decided to take it for a spin, but it's acting up. Can you handle it, or should I find someone older?" Kyla smirked, picking up a wrench from the workbench. "You want it fixed? I'll fix it. You want someone older? Good luck finding one who knows a Mustang like I do." Elliot's lips twitched, almost a smile. "All right, kid, impress me." She didn't respond, just popped the hood and got to work. Her hands moved with a rhythm, a dance she'd learned from years of watching her dad, then teaching herself when he wasn't there anymore. She muttered as she worked, half to herself, half to the car. "Come on, baby, tell me what's wrong." Elliot watched, leaning against the wall, his arms crossed. He wasn't used to being ignored, but something about this girl, her focus, her confidence, kept him quiet. 10 minutes in, Kyla's fingers brushed against the fuel pump. "Yup, clogged," she said, pulling it free with a grunt. "And your carburetor's a mess. You let this thing sit too long, mister." "Guilty," Elliot said, his tone lighter now. "It was my brother's car. He loved it more than anything. When he passed, I couldn't bring myself to drive it. Felt wrong." Kyla glanced at him, her expression softening for a split second before she turned back to the engine. "Cars don't like being ignored. They're like people, need attention, to keep running." Elliot chuckled, a low, warm sound. "You're a philosopher too?" "Nah," she said, wiping her hands on a rag. "Just no cars." She held up the fuel pump, inspecting it under the shop's flickering light. That's when Elliot's eyes caught something, a glint on her left hand. A ring, small and silver, sat on her ring finger, its surface etched with a faint design. It looked old, out of place on a kid's hand, and something about it made Elliot's breath catch. "Where'd you get that ring?" he asked, his voice suddenly sharp. Kyla froze, her hand curling into a fist. "It's mine," she said, her tone guarded. "Why?" Elliot stepped closer, his eyes locked on her hand. "Let me see it." She hesitated, then held out her hand, the ring catching the light. The design was unmistakable, a delicate vine pattern wrapping around a tiny worn crest. Elliot's face paled, his hand trembling as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photo, creased and faded. He held it up, his voice barely a whisper. This was my brother's ring." Kyla's stomach twisted. "What?" Elliot didn't answer. He was staring at the photo, a younger version of himself standing next to a man with a wide grin, the same ring glinting on the man's finger. The Mustang was in the background, shiny and new. "My brother, Daniel," Elliot said, his voice thick. "He wore that ring every day, never took it off. When he died, it was gone. I thought it was lost forever." Kyla's heart pounded. She didn't know what to say, didn't know how to explain. The ring had been her dad's, a keepsake he'd given her before he left. "Always keep it close," he'd said, his voice heavy with something she didn't understand at the time. "It's special, Kyla, more than you know." "How do you have it?" Elliot pressed, his eyes searching her face. "Who gave it to you?" "My dad," she said, her voice small but steady. "He gave it to me 2 years ago, said it was important." Elliot's jaw tightened. "Your dad, what's his name?" "Marcus," she said. "Marcus Tate." The name hit Elliot like a punch. He staggered back, catching himself against the workbench. "Marcus Tate," he repeated, his voice barely audible. That's impossible." Kyla's eyes narrowed. "You know him?" Elliot didn't answer right away. His mind was racing, piecing together fragments of a past he'd buried long ago. Marcus Tate. The name hadn't crossed his lips in decades. Not since the summer of '95, when he and his brother Daniel had run with a crowd that lived on the edge. Fast cars, late nights, and secrets they swore to take to their graves. Marcus had been one of them, a kid with a knack for engines and a laugh that could light up a room. But that summer ended in tragedy, and Marcus disappeared. Elliot had assumed he was dead, like Daniel. "Tell me about your dad," Elliot said, his voice urgent. "Where is he now?" Kyla's shoulders tensed. "Gone," she said flatly. "Left 2 years ago. Didn't say where. Just gave me the ring and told me to keep the shop running." Elliot's mind reeled. The ring, the Mustang, Marcus. It was too much to be coincidence. "Kyla," he said, his voice softer now. "I need you to tell me everything you know about that ring. Everything your dad told you." She crossed her arms, her guard up. "Why should I? You come in here, acting all fancy, asking about my stuff. How do I know you're not making this up?" Elliot exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "You're right, you don't know me. But I'm telling you, that ring, it's not just a ring. It's a piece of my brother's life. And if your dad had it, then there's a story here. One I've been trying to understand for 20 years. Kyla studied him, her sharp eyes searching for a lie. She didn't trust easy. Life had taught her that. But something in Elliot's voice, raw and unguarded, made her pause. "All right," she said finally. "But you tell me your side first. What's so special about this ring? And why's it got you looking like you've seen a ghost?" Elliot nodded, pulling up a stool and sitting across from her. "Fair enough," he said. "It started in '95. Me, Daniel, Marcus, and a few others. We were tight. Ran a crew that fixed up cars, raced them, made some bad choices. The ring was Daniel's. Our dad gave it to him when he turned 18, said it was a family heirloom, passed down for generations. Daniel never took it off, not once." He paused, his eyes distant. "That summer we got mixed up with some rough people. Debts we couldn't pay, deals that went south. Daniel, he took the fall for us. One night, he went to meet someone, a guy we owed money to. He never came back. Police found his body a week later. No ring, no answers. I thought Marcus was gone too until now." Kyla's throat tightened. She'd heard bits and pieces of her dad's past, vague stories about his wild youth, but nothing like this. "My dad never talked about that," she said. He'd get quiet sometimes, like he was carrying something heavy. When he gave me the ring, he said it was a promise. Didn't say what for." Elliot leaned forward, his voice low. "Kyla, I don't think your dad just left. If he had that ring, he was running from something. Or someone. And if he gave it to you, he was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" Kyla's voice cracked. "From what?" "I don't know," Elliot said, his eyes dark. "But I'm going to find out." The shop fell silent, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the Mustang. Kyla's fingers brushed the ring, its cool metal grounding her. She didn't know what to believe, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just about a car anymore. It was about secrets, promises, and a past that refused to stay buried. And then, from the back of the shop, came a sound. A faint creak, like a door easing open. Kyla's head snapped toward it, her heart racing. "You hear that?" she whispered. Elliot's eyes narrowed. "Yeah," he said, standing slowly. "Stay behind me." The creak echoed again, sharper this time, like a footstep on the shop's warped floorboards. Kyla's pulse thundered in her ears, but she didn't move, her eyes locked on the dark corner where the sound came from. Elliot stepped forward, his posture tense, one hand hovering near his jacket pocket like he was ready to pull something out. The air in the shop felt thick, heavy with the weight of secrets and the sudden, unspoken danger that had crept in. "Who's there?" Elliot called, his voice steady but laced with an edge that made Kyla's skin prickle. No answer came, just the faint rustle of movement, like fabric brushing against metal. Kyla's mind raced. Her dad had always kept a bat behind the counter for just in case, but it was too far to grab without crossing the open garage. She clutched the wrench in her hand, its cold weight a small comfort. Elliot motioned for her to stay put, but Kyla wasn't the type to sit back. She edged forward, her sneakers silent against the concrete, her eyes scanning the shadows. The shop's back room, cluttered with old parts and crates, was a maze of hiding spots. If someone was there, they knew the layout better than Elliot. Who did? Another sound, a metallic clank, like a tool hitting the floor. Kyla's breath caught, and Elliot whipped around, his eyes meeting hers. "Kyla, get back!" he hissed. But before she could argue, a figure stepped into the dim light. He was tall, wiry, with a face half hidden under a baseball cap pulled low. His clothes were nondescript, jeans, a faded jacket, but his hands were what Kyla noticed first. One held a crowbar, the other a flashlight, its beam cutting through the dust motes in the air. His eyes, cold and calculating, flicked between Kyla and Elliot, lingering on the ring still glinting on her finger. "Evening," the man said, his voice low, almost amused. "Didn't expect a party." Elliot straightened, his jaw tight. "Who are you? What do you want?" The man tilted his head, ignoring Elliot's question. His gaze settled on Kyla, and a slow smile curled his lips. "That's a nice ring, kid. Where'd you get it?" Kyla's grip on the wrench tightened, her heart hammering. "None of your business," she snapped, her voice sharper than she felt. Inside, she was shaking, but she'd learned long ago that showing fear was a losing game. The man chuckled, a sound that sent a chill down her spine. "Oh, it's my business. Been looking for that ring a long time. Belongs to someone. I used to know." Elliot stepped between Kyla and the man, his voice like steel. "You're not taking anything from her. Walk away now." The man's smile faded, his eyes narrowing. "You don't get it, do you? That ring's got history. Debts tied to it. Blood. You think you can just waltz in here, play hero, and walk out clean?" He raised the crowbar slightly. Not a threat yet, but a promise. Kyla's mind raced, piecing together fragments of the conversation with Elliot. The ring, her dad, Daniel's death, whatever this was, it was bigger than she'd imagined. And this man, whoever he was, wasn't here by chance. He'd been watching, waiting, and the ring had drawn him out like a moth to a flame. "Last chance," Elliot said, his voice low. "Leave, or you'll regret it." The man laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Regret's a funny thing. Your brother thought he could outrun it too. Look where that got him." Elliot's face went white, his hands curling into fists. "You knew Daniel?" "Knew him?" The man's eyes glinted. "I was there when he took his last breath. Begging. Crying. Still clutching that damn ring like it'd save him. Marcus was smarter. Ran before we could catch him. But you..." He pointed the crowbar at Kyla. "You're making this too easy." Kyla's stomach lurched. This man wasn't just some thief. He was tied to the past, to the night Daniel died, to whatever her dad had been running from. She glanced at Elliot, whose expression was a mix of rage and fear, and made a split-second decision. She couldn't let this guy walk out with the ring. Or worse. "Hey!" she shouted, stepping out from behind Elliot. The man's eyes snapped to her, and she held up her hand, the ring catching the light. You want it? Come get it. Kyla. No, Elliot hissed. But she was already moving, darting toward the workbench. The man lunged, faster than she'd expected, but she was quick too. Years of dodging wrenches and crawling under cars giving her an edge. She grabbed a can of spray paint from the bench and spun, spraying it straight into the man's face. He cursed, stumbling back, clawing at his eyes as the acrid smell filled the air. Elliot didn't hesitate. He tackled the man, sending the crowbar clattering to the floor. The two struggled, a blur of fists and grunts, until Elliot pinned him down, his knee on the man's chest. Who sent you? Elliot demanded, his voice raw. Who's after the ring? The man laughed, a choked, bitter sound. You think this ends with me? You're in over your head, Grayson. Both of you. Kyla's breath hitched. He knew Elliot's name. This wasn't random. It was personal. She grabbed the crowbar from the floor, her hands trembling but steady enough to hold it tight. Talk, she said, her voice fierce. Or I start swinging. The man's eyes flicked to her, and for the first time, he looked uncertain. You're Marcus's kid, aren't you? He said, almost to himself. Got his fire. All right, I'll give you something. The ring's a key, not just some trinket. It's got a code etched inside. Daniel and Marcus, they hid something. Something worth killing for. I'm just the errand boy. A code? Elliot's voice was sharp. What does it unlock? The man smirked, blood trickling from a split lip. You'll find out soon enough. They always do. Before Elliot could press further, the shop's front window shattered, glass exploding inward. Kyla screamed, ducking as a black SUV screeched to a stop outside. Two more men dressed in dark clothes stepped out, their faces obscured. One held a gun, its barrel glinting in the streetlight. Time's up, the pinned man said, his voice smug despite the knee on his chest. Elliot cursed, hauling the man to his feet and shoving him toward the back room. Kyla, run, he shouted. But she was already moving, her instincts kicking in. She grabbed the ring, yanking it off her finger and shoving it into her pocket. Whatever it was, whatever it meant, she wasn't letting these men have it. The back door was her only shot. She sprinted through the maze of crates, Elliot close behind, dragging the man with them. Gunshots rang out, bullets pinging off metal, and Kyla's heart felt like it would burst. She burst through the door into the alley, the cool night air, hitting her like a slap. Elliot followed, slamming the door shut and wedging a crate against it. Who are they? Kyla gasped, her legs burning as they ran. People who want what Daniel and Marcus hid, Elliot said, his voice grim. We need to get to my place. It's safe, at least for now. Kyla nodded, her mind spinning. The ring, the code, her dad's disappearance. It was all connected, and she was caught in the middle. As they ducked into the shadows, the SUV's headlights swept the alley, hunting them. Kyla's hand brushed the ring in her pocket, its weight heavier than ever. She didn't know what came next, didn't know if she could trust Elliot or if her dad was even alive, but one thing was certain. She wasn't just a kid fixing cars anymore. She was part of something bigger, something dangerous, and she'd fight like hell to uncover the truth. The alley stretched ahead, dark and endless, and Kyla ran, the ring's secret burning in her pocket like a promise, or a curse.